And today we got a short session. The reason is that I have already shared the main presentation on Riba, that is usury, interest, and other problems of the capitalist system. So what I have done is that very briefly I will introduce the background or the perspective to this permanent value, and then we will have question answer and hopefully any points requiring elaboration, I'll be happy to elaborate. Second is there is a part two to this presentation. So some of the questions and queries might be answered in part two because a lot of it is a psychological aspect of understanding the issue of capital and getting reward on capital or increase on capital. So I'll start with this a brief introduction. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Permanent Values Part 10, No to Riba, that is usury, interest, and other aspects. And it is a permanent value that there cannot be riba under the system of Deen. And this is a summary for question and answer session. So what I've done is I'll go through these references and this is our contact and I'll go through few slides. Why no to riba? So the question which arises in our mind is that why don't we want riba? What is wrong with it? No human being has the right to exploit another human being. So that is the fundamental reason which the Quran puts forward. It says that every human being has that intrinsic ability or intrinsic trait of choice and intent and has respect and dignity. And we have gone through these aspects. And no human being wants to be exploited. But the same human being who doesn't want to be exploited then ends up exploiting others. So that is the aspect we should keep in mind, that any aspect through which one human being is going to exploit another, whether individually or part of a system, is wrong, is zulm, is injustice according to the Quran. And then the question for the students of the Quran is to understand it. Because without understanding it, without making it part of our thinking, we simply cannot understand this permanent value, that why Quran is against no to, is against charging any form of riba or any system which is based on riba acceptable to Allah. The first point is al riba, that interest which is received on the loan, taking more on the original capital. This is applicable to every transaction involving capital, which essentially means that Quran says you have no right to get an extra recompense, reward, money on that wealth which you have given to others, or you establish a system in which people can receive increase on their capital without putting any effort. So the Quran says that you should only get what effort you make, because it is the use of human body which is involved. So human body should be used to produce wealth, not wealth should be used to obtain more wealth. And that is applicable at individual as well as collective level. But then at a collective level, the whole system also produces wealth. And that wealth is permissible by the system because it is by the system, for the system, that is for the people. So that is the important point we need to understand. Individuals cannot benefit from the wealth which they haven't earned themselves through their own work. Second point is the permanent value under Deen is that the reward is for the work, not the capital. And we have gone through this permanent value previously. Everyone carries out his own responsibility. Quran says that this body is given to you to work. So if this body is not working to earn its living, then it is injustice, because the body is not being used for the purpose for which it is given to us. So that is the important aspect. So the question which we should ask as students of the Quran to ourselves, am I using my body to all the abilities which it has at this point in time? If I'm not using that, then this is zulm, and I should counter it and bring it into use for the good of others. And that is an important aspect over here. Third is our stay on this planet is finite and our physical body is going to die at some point in time. And the body is given to develop ourselves by living life within the domain of the permanent values. It's an important point as well, which we have gone through it again and again. In fact, we keep reminding ourselves that we are going to die one day. So each week, when we come back here, that means we have that week is past and we will never get that week back. And it is in the physical domain. As well as the psychological domain is concerned, that is the domain of the human self is concerned, which essentially means that during that one week, have we gained something for ourselves? So while our body is getting old and we are losing some of our physical abilities as the time is passing, are we capitalizing? And again, I'll use the word capitalizing over here. That are we capitalizing on the increase in the value of our own self? The physical body needs to be employed to produce work and not sit idle doing nothing. So that means if this is the problem of the capitalist system, that in it, wealth, those who have got more wealth, their wealth earns more wealth, and as a result, they do not use their physical body for the purpose for which it has been provided to them. And this is the starting point, because once the system of Deen is established, then people will understand everything, or the people who are running the affairs will understand. So, students of the Quran, when the system of Deen is not there, need to understand this. Hence, this is the first phase of our life after we arrive here through the biological process. The Quran gives fundamental importance to the economic side of our existence and points to human psyche and its issues which create man-made systems. Economic systems we know because the basic needs of human beings and necessities are related to physical being. And if our physical needs are not met, then the psychological needs cannot be met unless our physical needs are met. And that's an important point, and there is plenty of evidence for that. That if people are poor, we can't go and give them the lecture on system of Deen. They want their problems to be solved first, and they will be encouraged to join that effort, which is for the good of whole of mankind and for their good as well. It invites Mu'mineen to understand the whole issue of economics by coming to grips with the human psyche without the guidance, and then its willing transformation after accepting Iman. So this makes our job as students of the Quran very challenging. So first we have to understand our own physical side of life, then we have to understand the psychological side of our life using the Quran, and then we have to understand the man-made system and its flaws. Then we have to understand all the permanent values and divine attributes and the overall concept of Deen, and then bring transformation within ourselves by after accepting Iman and doing solid deeds, so that we understand completely in a fairly functional manner what system of Deen is expecting from us. The second slide is Riba cannot be eliminated under any man-made system. Now, this is a very important aspect of this. So, because a lot of people talk about making some adjustments within the man-made system to make it free from interest, and they think by making it free from interest as if all the problems of the capitalist system and its exploitation are going to be resolved. This is all batil. This is all a self-deception. And these efforts simply can never ever succeed. And we should be very clear on that. If we are serious about changing the man-made system and replacing it with the system of Deen, we have to come to terms with the intricacies of the Quranic system of sustenance. The Quranic system of sustenance is totally free from riba and is established through the hands of Jamaat-e-Mumineen. And when we say that it should be totally free from riba, it means material riba as well as the psychological riba. Because material riba, that is the charging of wealth from wealth, is the outcome of psychological riba. If human beings do not want to exploit others and want to work themselves and have a system in which everyone's efforts are paid fully, then they will never be establishing this system. And if we do not understand, then obviously we cannot establish this system. This is why the verses dealing with this aspect are all addressed to Mu'mineen. And we can go through some of these verses, and I will be covering this aspect in our second presentation, part 2, in which I will say that how progressively Quran is educating us, training us, and then asking us to change our psyche. We miss these points because we start reading them individually, whereas there is a continuity in it, that how Quran is asking us not to accumulate wealth. There is not a single verse in the Quran which says accumulate wealth, because Quran doesn't have to say and tell us on accumulation of wealth, because Quran is against accumulation of wealth. But despite that, it also says that human beings have the proclivity and a desire to accumulate wealth. So this is our default unguided position, that human beings want to accumulate wealth. And this accumulation of wealth comes from uncertainty and insecurity built in the man made system. So we must keep that in mind all the time. See also other verses noted in the main presentation. This system cannot be introduced mechanically. And that is another very important point, that we cannot force this system on people. People have to accept it rationally, that it is in their own interest, by taking into account the short term effects as well as the long term effects of the man made systems. And the Jamaat-e-Mumineen found for this purpose, and they have to come together willingly. All will understand the whole human psyche behind this system. No man-made system can eliminate riba, as those who manage these economic systems have no iman, even if they have studied the Quran. If they talk about elimination of riba, we should never trust them and continue our efforts on this path in the system of Deen. Any distraction will waste any effort and deed in this direction. Riba-free system simply cannot be established by non-Quranic minds. Next point is, even if we are the direct or indirect beneficiaries of the man-made systems, for example, we are also receiving rents on properties, interest on capital investments, we have shares, we land share in its output, like people take 50% of share in by handing over the land to some farmers or tenants. Factory industry output, that is the all the factories, even the corporations. So all they are exploiting the work of others in one form or another. Stock dividends, shareholders. So all of these things are part of the riba prone system, or the system which we see all around us. It should not hamper our progress on understanding the Quranic system of sustenance. While we are doing all this, because these are the essential evils of man-made system, we can still understand the Quranic system of sustenance. It should never ever put us off, because when the new system comes, it has to be understood firstly theoretically at a fundamental level, all its finer details, and then we have to go through the change systematically. So at this point in time, I will touch it in the last slide as well. In this, at this point, the first thing important is to understand that what this system is and what it is doing to humanity. The first phase of this path of Allah is to understand the whole issue physiologically as it exists. The next slide is making progress towards understanding the riba-free system. So we are part of the riba-prone system. Our riba forms essential part of the man-made system, in which those who have got more wealth, and in fact they hold power as well, they are the ones who are controlling the whole system and exploiting everyone else. Whether they are aware of that exploitation or not, that is not the case. The thing is, the system is there, and we are witnesses to that. And that is why we want to bring a change. However, part of this learning process is to resort to solid deeds in order to bring change in our psyche, where we can grasp this issue and its significance through and through. This can be comprehended when we have acquired a developed self and checked through the Quranic signposts. I put down this comment because understanding this concept is extremely important. Never mind, even if we are part of this whole capitalist system, to any extent, we are immersed into it right from head to toe. The issue over here is first to understand how to develop ourselves. because without developing ourselves, we simply cannot understand the Quran at the basic level, and then understanding the system and a riba-free system is not possible. So the first thing is to acquire that developed self to understand it. And for that, we have to have Iman and do solid deeds. And this platform can help with that. If there are any misunderstanding or one is not understanding, then best is to exchange views on this aspect, to come to terms with this aspect. We must understand the impact of wealth collection on our psyche and our outlook towards life. And that is important because at every point in time, we have to exchange a lower value for a higher value. The lower value is to collect wealth. The higher value is to move beyond it. So if we want to go to the value beyond it, for example, towards understanding the system of Deen, then we have to get rid of some part of that lower value of wealth in the path of Allah. So that is the way we should view it and make an effort as well. I can expand on that during our question answer session. This study and journey is bound to create some guilty conscience if we are the beneficiary of this riba. I put down this comment because I have come across some members who say who do feel guilt as well, and we all should feel some guilt for being the beneficiaries of the man-made system. But we simply cannot get rid of it. We simply cannot, because it's not an individual thing. It is a future thing where system of Deen is established. And Quran has pointed to that. For example, all these verses which I have covered in this part 1, we can see that Quran is gradually moving towards that. For example, when Quran says that be prepared for a war against Allah and the Messenger if you don't give up riba, we can see that these verses are addressed to Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen. And that means at that time, some of the Mu'mineen were charging riba. So it is a transitional phase. It is gradually move towards the whole system. So there is no question of feeling guilt about it. We have to deal with it that we are in the man-made system, and man-made system changes gradually and slowly. So the first stage is to understand how to change it and why to change it. No one can simply avoid this aspect under the man-made systems. The degree of benefits can vary. For example, those who are very rich and those who belong to the middle and lower class. So this is another aspect that, for example, if somebody is very rich within our folds, like Tolu Islam's members, that doesn't mean that we expect that this change will come overnight. But what we need is essentially to understand that what this new system, which is called Deen, means in terms of individuals and its collective outlook. The issue here is to first fully comprehend the issue psychologically and then look at all the phases through which the system of Deen will proceed to establish itself. For example, if the Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen has not yet emerged, then the issue is to unite hearts in order to come to terms with the system of Deen and its various phases. Understanding the psyche behind riba is part of this struggle. So, if our hearts are not united, for example, on this platform, our outlook hasn't changed. We have not merged into one, merged into a group or a jamaat, we can say, which has one outlook. Then the issue of riba doesn't even come into it. Then riba, understanding even riba is not important. What is important is to first unite our hearts, and we have gone over it many times. If we do not strive hard by being part of Tolu Islam and move forward, then essentially we are not interested in having a riba-free system and to understand it. So this is something which we should keep in mind, that there is a lot of ground to be covered before we come to that stage where power from Allah comes in our direction. And over here we will go through these phases. This is the last slide in the presentation I shared online, which I shared through YouTube. And what it says is looking for guidance after rejecting the system of Taghut and accepting Iman. And we know Taghut is that system in which every law of Allah is transgressed, where humanity is exploited to its extremes. And that is the state of man-made systems. And then we fed up with Tagut, we accept Iman, studying the Quran as Deen, and over here Tulu Islam can help. And Tulu Islam is not some very big organization. It is sum total of all those members who attend this platform and go through the books and who are part of our basic organization in Lahore in Pakistan. So it is not something in which we take a proper oath and then say we are like other organizations. It is a coalition of the willing, as they say, those who are united through their hearts on Iman and say that we are not happy with the system of Taghut and we are working towards the system of Deen and we are striving on this path, and it is on us that we do participate in this whole effort to whatever we can do. So this is something which we should keep in mind. Joining those who are on this path willingly in response to inner desire. So it should become our inner desire and need to be on this path, not mechanically, and it should be willingly. It should be demand of our heart and mind that this is a higher purpose of life. I should join with those. And what can be a higher purpose than to become a companion of Allah? Growing in understanding of Deen till hearts become united. Common purpose, investing in time plus resource. Forming phase. Now, this is an important phase where we are now because we have this small platform where people, members come, join, and increase their understanding of the system, then go back individually and practice in their own time. Formal education and training leading to individual self-development. Mumineen based on Iman plus solid deeds emerge. Continue with patience and steadfastness. Next is strengthening phase, and this is going to be a difficult phase because after this phase we will enter into this phase. Strengthening phase. In this phase, power should appear in the direction of these mu'mineen who have now coalesced into a solid Jamaat. Expansion of vision and consciousness to continue. We do not know at this stage how that power will come, but the Quran says it should come in your direction. And the the signpost over here will be a bear. That is, we will start understanding the wider aspects of the system of Deen. Deen phase, power acquired in a piece of land, and this is a very, very challenging phase which will come at some point in the future. Transitory phase from the man-made system towards Deen. This core Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen acts as the initial seeding, utilizes existing setup. So over here, change doesn't come. It has to go from man-made system towards the system of Deen. And obviously, all these people who are here and over here in farming phase have to understand and have a willpower and a courage and determination and steadfastness and patience to carry out this task on behalf of Allah. Let us go to the next one. Now, this is where the transitory phase starts. Individual appeal for sadaqat and voluntary sharing of wealth and possessions, system to be put in place, concept of the self promoted. Of course, this self is already acquired by this Jamaat over here, individually at this farming phase, and they know that they have a developed self. And once they have acquired that, they are bold enough to tell others, I have a developed self. Why I have a developed self? Because I can check it in the light of the Quran. This is what I am in the light of the Quran, and you can see all those signs in myself. And this is a very, very bold and courageous phase in which, when one becomes the companion of Allah, then one is not fearful of any human being. Of course, it doesn't mean that one should go and start fighting with people. The whole point is to share the values of the Quran with others and strengthen the Jamaat or the group which has been formed through these efforts. Extensive program for motivation based on rational thinking and reasoning, education and training of a core team of those looking for guidance. Next is stepping towards a collective system, awareness of issues in detail and their remedial measures based on the Quran, organizing and solving day-to-day issues on a long-term basis. Now we should keep in mind that this is being carried out by those who have formed here under this phase and they have strengthened. So it is a small core team which is running the system and then expanding it gradually. Next is Deen taking shape based on permanent values, people with divine attributes identified as a core team, decentralized on a regional basis, issue of riba identified, and banking system to be reformed. So this is a place where riba free system can start taking shape. So we can see that there are a lot of stages to reach this stage. So one should not worry oneself and stress that we are doing nothing. We are doing a lot if we know that at what phase, what stage we are on this path called the path of Allah. Finally, the system of Deen matures within the guidance of the Quran. This is a consolidation phase. And as I've put down over here, are we here? So this is my assessment that we are at this farming phase and we should continue with that. And through this, we should unite our hearts and strive on this path which the Tolu Islam has provided for us and be part of it and try to strengthen it through our efforts. And riba will be a concern here. So at this stage, sitting here, we are trying to understand all these phases, that what kind of human psyche we require in order to conceptualize the whole process. We now move to our question and answer session.
Thank you, Jazbhai. I think it was quite short, but amazing. Identifying the different phases and what is required at each phase in order to check ourselves. Thank you for all being here today. Most welcome. Let's go to Q&A. Ji Umar over here, my son. Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Ji, let's give first chance to Umar. Are you ready, Jazbhai?
Yes, I'm ready.
Ji Umar, go ahead.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Yes, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Uncle, I just got a very quick question. The lecture was about riba, which was amazing. It's an eye opener. Now, you said it's wrong to get money if you haven't worked for it, yeah?
Yes.
Now, in terms of what about those people who claim benefits and who are actually entitled to benefits? They receive, for example, personal independent payment on a monthly basis. Now, would that be considered riba as well or not, according to the Quran?
The one thing, a very good question. The one thing we should keep in mind is that the man-made system, within the man-made system, we simply cannot get rid of riba, right? Because the whole system is based on exploitation of others. And it is established by those who accumulate wealth and are greedy, and they don't want to, because it is through wealth they control others. So we simply cannot. And all the welfare system of man-made system is to create poor and a lower class, a class which is deprived and psychologically suppressed. A person who stands up in a queue to get some welfare handouts is never going to achieve the position on the status of a full-fledged human being, and never mind becoming a moment. The Quranic system, under the Quranic system, we have covered this aspect in one of our permanent values, where when Quran says reward is for the work, it also says ihsan. So ihsan is also a permanent value. Ihsan means that there will be human beings, like children, like women who are looking after the family. They will also need some help. So Quran says that then fulfill their necessities of life through a system where they do not feel as a beggar, but they can claim it as a right. And Quran has said that these are those people in whose earning is the rights of yatim and miskeen. So ihsan means that if somebody's balance is imbalanced, we help him to retain his balance. And that means essentially under the system of Deen, everyone who can work in some ways, even intellectually, should be provided with work, because this work is essential for their self-respect, dignity, and for their own good. Because human mind thinks, and human mind has the tendency, if you remember psychologically, We all feel ashamed, we feel regrets, we feel disappointments, we feel embarrassed. So all these should be taken into account so that human beings, as holistically, the system can take care of their psychological side as well as their physical side. Because under the man-made system, the aim of life is to get through this life till death somehow. And the whole thing is materially centered, that if I can get a lot of wealth, then I can somehow secure myself. And all the time there is a fear of death, there is a fear of getting old, there is a fear of getting some terminal disease. Fear of being abandoned by children is there if one has children. If one doesn't have children, fear of being abandoned by the society. All these fears are there. Quran wants us to become totally free from those fears. So essentially that means all those who want to become mu'mineen have to come to with these fears, come to grips with these fears themselves. Firstly, I should know what kind of a fears human mind generates and the system generates. Then I should start working for that after understanding. And then we should all come together who are united on this aim that life is far more than the physical self. It has other needs, that is psychological needs as well. So that is the way the system wants us to view the system of Deen. So what Quran is telling over here is that this economic side of human body and human life is extremely important, and human beings should never be exploited just because they have certain physical needs or material needs. So that is how we need to look at it. So all those who will not be able to work, are disabled, or for some reason are weak, then we have to look after them. I'll give you a very simple example. Good parents who have children, they bring up their children. Of course, they bring those children into the world as well. But as long as those children are not able to stand on their feet, don't they give everything free to them. Even once they have stood up on their feet, due to the man-made system, these children have problems. Then these parents, if they can afford, they help them as well. And in return, what do they get? In material terms, they get nothing, but they get some kind of a pleasure. They get some happiness. So what price are we going to put on that happiness and joy and pleasure? And then in the long term investment, they also get it back, because the children who are looked after well by parents under particularly the permanent values, those children are bound to look after these parents better than the ones who have brought them up mechanically. Do you get this point? Because this is how this whole system then coalesces, it comes together and starts working as one solid team. So the same family thing is applicable at a wider level. We never ask our children, and when we give them food or clothing and help them to get better education, that what are you going to give me in return? That return is not visible. And we know that some of these children may even leave parents and go away, but still we help them. So this is that kind of that some family setup is the one which Quran is extending to everyone. And we do not exploit our children, and we do not exploit their hard work. And some parents do who have an imbalanced personalities. But generally, this is true across the board, that good parents look after their children. Same is the responsibility of Jamaat-e-Momineen, who on behalf of Allah, and as they say, we are all children of Allah in that way, inverted commas. And Allah wants us that in His word, on His behalf, to look after every child in the land called the planet Earth. I hope it answers your question.
Gigi, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It requires a lot of thought through this presentation, which I put together in the part 2. It is not something we can go through it and pick it up in one, go. We'll have to look at every point using our cognitive abilities to come to grips with, forgetting about the man-made system. Even if we are the extreme beneficiaries of this system, we have all kinds of benefits we are drawing from that. But if we are unhappy the way man-made system is, then we will find an answer over here, and then we will also find the help of Allah available to us. Because this man-made system can be changed if we go through these phases, which I put down in this slide. If we go through these phases by staying together and all the time telling ourselves, I will never give it up. I will stay on this path and keep moving forward. Thank you. Amjad wants to ask something.
Thank you. Ji Amjad bhai, welcome.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
I
Not
was
too bad.
thinking of you and going to phone you other day, but then I had this cold and itchy throat. So
Yeah. No. Are you feeling better today?
yes, I'm feeling far better. I had to get ready for this presentation because the option was either to postpone it, and to be fair, for 3 Sundays, I felt terrible that we did not have our meeting and didn't get a chance to meet with all of you.
I don't know. I think this lecture, this presentation, we should have had a lot earlier.
We couldn't.
Only because I'm one of those people that feel guilty at every corner.
No, you don't.
Knowing very. No, I'm going to explain myself.
Yes, please go ahead.
At one stage, you have ayats of Quran in your head all the time. And second stage, you're living under a system that really hammers you. You don't have choices or limited choices what you can and cannot do, and you have to survive in this system. And one of the things that I've learned today and is clear, when we start looking at riba and all other stuff, and you look at from the point of view of system, it all comes together. It makes sense, and that sort of is the guilty bit. Because we can't overnight say I'm going to drop this or I'm going to drop. We have to survive, and we don't want to become a burden on others as well. So it's something you cannot just avoid. But one of the things that I like is this transition bit. This is the phases we're going through. It's not going to be an over just drop everything and you will be fine. No, it is a process we're going to go through. As long as we bear in our mind that things will hurt us because they're not right, but at the same time we're going to be we need to live. But as long as our mindset is this is a transition and we can't just drop it, then I think that guilty sort of ease come down a little bit. Not entirely, but it does help when you think like, correct me if I've misunderstood anything.
No, this is exactly, you got it. A few things, let me make you a bit at ease. First thing is that you are not in a different situation. We all are in this situation. And I find myself in this situation as well. And I have to go through it very, very pedantically and methodically to look at every aspect. That is why it took me over 4 years to come to grips with this issue of riba. I had started putting a presentation together a couple of years ago, but I couldn't do it any justice. I listened to Parvez Saab again, and still I did not pick up the psychological side. See, mechanical side is very simple and straightforward. Don't charge usury or interest. But then why shouldn't people charge? And the people who have power, why should they give up the easy money they get from the system? And being the product of the system, how can people change their mind? For example, if I'm drawing rent and I'm drawing some share from any lands if I have, and why should I give it up? Because you're part of the man-made system, and man-made system has made it legal. But it is the psyche behind that which has to change. So despite being the beneficiary, that is why I again and again say that despite being the beneficiary, we have to come to grips with the man-made system and its exploitive nature. And all these, even the messenger of Allah came from a rich business family. And all those companions, some of them were from that. And that is why Quran has addressed them. When Quran says that if you don't give up riba, then be prepared for a war against Allah and His Messenger. And Messenger means now Allah and His book. So the ones who are going to follow the book, then they have to be in that position where they understand this issue of riba and start to establish the system. And those who were being challenged, they were also mu'mineen. Just we should keep in mind that those verses start from Jamaat-e Mu'mineen. For example, if we go through the verse, I think 254, it is addressed to mu'mineen. And then Quran step by step goes through it and tells them that change your psyche. You like money. And now the system has been established where sadaqat have started coming in. People are sparing their wealth, what is beyond their need. They are contributing to this system. So that important aspect over here which comes before you and me is that this is Tulu Islam. Tulu Islam is defined by you and me and the values it has in the light of the Quran. So if Tulu Islam, on Tulu Islam, we are saying that we are striving for the system of Deen, then we have to explain to others what that system of Deen is. And then we have to tell them that this is the kind of self which the Deen is the Deen is demanding from us in the light of the Quran willingly. And then we present our own self before them that this self is the one which has reached that stage of understanding where it can now grasp all the essentials of the system of Deen. And what is the basic fundamental level of that understanding? What is beyond your need has to be given up because that is the way system will progress further. Why Quran is saying what is beyond your need? Because Quran says that your needs, if you go beyond that, then these will hamper you, these will slow you down. Your system will not multiply, it will not increase in wealth. Quran is not against increase in wealth. Quran is against unequal distribution, unjust distribution of wealth because of which the classes are created among human beings. Rich class, medium, middle class, and poor class, and of course there are class who doesn't even exist, and but they exist, like these shooters and subcastes, and the human beings are humiliated to an extent that they cease to be human beings. So what Quran is saying is that before the system is established, before you take any concrete steps, first stage is to patiently acquire that self which understands all these intricacies despite being the beneficiary of the system, and then be willing to get rid of all these evils so that the wider humanity starts benefiting from that, which essentially means that we strengthen our resolve to be on this path through our individual as well as collective efforts. And for that, we have to continuously do saleh deeds. And saleh deeds means with a view to bring out our best, are those deeds which are preventing us from understanding what riba is. Because the moment we put a question of riba to someone who is a half-hearted Muslim, religious or sectarian Muslim, they will start asking you questions. What will happen to inflation? What will happen to this aspect or that aspect? Why should I give wealth to poor who doesn't work? Why shouldn't I get return from extra return from shares and others? What about my needs? So when people ask those questions, they are not thinking on the system of Deen. They are thinking within the man-made system. So this is the way we have to understand it. And for every aspect and every step we take, we have to make space within our mind for the system of Deen somehow. And we simply cannot make that space within our mind unless we get rid of some part of our possessions on the path of Allah. I hope that makes sense. It's a
No,
very
no,
sensitive.
that does make sense. It's just how you go about and do it. And what really helps me as a person is that gradual, that phase stage. because in my own mind I overstart thinking, I've got this, should I have it? Where do I get rid? What do I do? All these questions start coming in my own mind. But now that things becoming to somehow give me structure in my own psychological, is that these are phases that you go through. It's not just like give up everything and then you yourself become needy, or you still need to retain that freedom. And unfortunately, we're living in a material world, and you need that material possession just to gain that freedom so you can think ahead. But when the Quranic system is there, then all that freedom, that materialist want isn't there anymore, because system is going to take care of your needs. So I think is getting that mindset right was my biggest struggle, and that's been there for a long time. And I've been having a word with yourself, Ejaz Bhai. I've been having a word with Salim Saib. I've been having a word with Asif Jalali Saib, and having those discussions has sort of gave me a comfort that these are all related to system and these are gradual process. And today's lecture has really brought those clarity for me. And I wish we had these a lot earlier, because I think not just myself, like you said, many of those people that have come out of this materialistic thinking is they want change, but at the same time that guilt is something that it was very difficult to overcome. So yeah, no, it's a great lecture. And
No, thank you. And the best is all those who are on this platform, please feel free to exchange views on that. Pick up the phone. You can speak to me, speak to others as well, like Brother Asif Jalil, Muhammad Ali, yourself, Iftikhar, by anyone. And because with the exchange of views, then clarity comes. And we are in a position to make correct decisions. Otherwise, we end up making some bad emotional decisions. And as a result, we suffer. Because whatever we are doing within the man-made system, we should not stop doing it. Keep doing it. Keep living your life the way it is. At this stage, important thing is to psychologically understand, and whatever we can do for this cause, this path of Allah, for example, supporting Tolu Islam, because Tolu Islam is defined by us. Islam is not some big corporation somewhere, which is the otherworldly, or we are a small tittly bitly part of it. Because we should consider Allah as our employer and we are His employee. The only thing is that employer asks us to become employer as well of our own self. And that is the way I take it. That I have to do, and it's a horrendous responsibility. It makes me sleepless, let me tell you, that how much responsibility I have taken on my shoulder. But then that is fine. There is a pleasure also with that. Dr. Manzoor Malik wants to.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are
Hope
you?
you're
Are you
all okay.
sitting in the sunshine?
I'm sitting in the sunshine just here. We have a good day today. Yes.
Yes. Other day, my daughter sent a message that's a beautiful sunshine. And I said, remember, this sunshine is free from Allah.
That's true.
And
That's true. Yes.
then I said, you are using it freely.
Yes. That's right. So with the lecture, I think I'm looking through a different angle on it.
Okay.
So what my angle is, at the time of Prophet Muhammad, I think there were no banks. Most of the people who were rich, they were businessmen, and they used to have people who were morally slaves. So I suppose that they used to give them money, or they used to sell them things quite, expensive. So to me, it looks like it's more over profiteering or more overcharging what they were doing to them. So I think that's the way how Riba is, because that way actually they were causing problems to those people who were not, affording at all. Because in Islam, there's quite a lot about business. That is the Sunnah, or it is good to do business as well, because Prophet Muhammad was doing business as well. So I think over profiteering, suppose if you buy something for 50 pounds and you sell it 150 pounds or 100 pounds, one can understand that if you have a thing for 50 pounds, you can sell it for 70 pounds, because you have to take into account your work, your expenses, whether it's a shop, is a company, all those things, if you take it into account, so 70 pounds would be possibly reasonable. But when you are selling it 100, 120, 130, 200, especially in the time of Ramadan, 200, so I think that is really what riba is. Because at that time, please correct me, I don't know whether they had banks at that times that they were giving loans to the people, because most of us in the West have the problem about loaning, mortgaging our houses. Again, if we look at the mortgaging of a house, which some people think it is riba as well, and they are Islamic banks and they charge you more than the conventional banks as well, because I had that understanding 10 years ago when I thought about that, because I was traditional myself. I thought, okay, let's go for Islamic banking. But they charge me more than the conventional bank. So if a bank is giving me a mortgage on up to 5 or 6% and is allowing me to pay it back whenever I can, and giving me the keys, and then I have got the appreciation of the house. So to me, I don't think that is riba. Yes, I can see in a bigger picture. Yes, in a bigger picture, if we have a system, we should not have such kind of thing or such kind of system there. But we are not having that system at the moment. So we are living in this system what we have at the moment. So to me, it feels it's more overcharging or over profiteering people who are actually having the war against Allah and against His message. So I was looking into that angle. I don't know whether you have got a second part coming into it as well. So maybe that time we might give some evidence from Quran as well. I mean, that was my angles. I was looking at that way. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. It's a very good comment and a query which I will try to answer as I understand it. Firstly, your point, in my view, is about the practicality within the man-made system. So, under the man-made system, all of us should do as the man-made system dictates. Because I have seen people suffering. For example, a friend of mine over here is still living in rented accommodation and thinks that he should not get interest or usury or whatever he calls it. And I told him that his landlord has also invested in money in his house, and now he's charging you that rent, and you are in that way contributing to his interest and his free money, and he's earning wealth over wealth. And as a result, these people suffer. And I've come across some other people as well who, for example, they put money in the bank, and the bank gives them some interest and they don't want to take that interest. Again, that is something which they should avoid doing that. The reason is what the bank is giving them. If you're leaving it, that means that bank is getting benefit for that. And the best is to get that and you can give it away to some poor people or some deserving people who are made poor by the system. So its application, this lecture's application is not within the man-made system. In fact, we must not apply it within the man-made system because it gives us false satisfaction that we are doing something. And this is what the mazhab does. This is what the religion does. If you ask someone that why I'm fasting, because I have to do something, but then you say that are you going to get that benefit which the Quran has mentioned, then they become speechless. For example, Quran says la'allakum tattaqoon, and it is addressed to mu'mineen. There is no Jamaat mu'mineen, and there is no question of becoming muttaqi as part of that Jamaat mu'mineen. So why are you doing it? So doing something which gives us false sense of satisfaction is self-deception, and we will never ever be able to, let me make it very clear, we will never ever get that self which the Quran says that you should get through the obedience of the Quranic message. And I agree with you in part two. I'm going to go through this aspect once we go through some of these verses which come prior to this war on riba. Your point on other regarding trade, under the Islamic system or the Deen system of Deen, there will be guidelines provided to human beings regarding selling and buying. And selling and buying is not to make profit, but to live this life amicably and happily so that a society emerges which is totally free from fear and huzn. So the aim is not to become rich. Aim is to live a life within the permanent values so that we do not exploit others and we do not become exploited by others. So both aspects. And the needs, we all need a shelter. We all need a bed at night to go to sleep. We also need a toilet to make use of it, and a kitchen and basic facilities of life. And so this is something which is going to be resolved on a holistic basis and willingly. I'll give you example. If somebody has got a smaller family, obviously their needs are less than the one who's got a bigger family during the transitional phase. But then a phase will come where people will be very intelligent, very intellectually understanding, and they will only bring that many children into the world which they can afford or the system can afford. And this, what is happening at present is that so many unwanted children are coming into this world and creating a mess everywhere. There's a poverty everywhere. For example, all these children born in, for example, Gaza, they are being blown up by these bombs. And these parents did not bring them into this world to, blow them up. So I agree with you that this is part of the system. At this stage, best is to follow the man-made system. And if there are any doubts somewhere, then best is to discuss with one of us, and we can at least overcome that sense of guilt, as Brother Amjad said, which will give a sense of guilt if we go through all these verses. And guilt is a good thing, because guilt is the one then which motivates us to do something and remain firm on this path. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay. Yes, Zan bhai.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Sir.
Assalamu alaikum. So, there was a one point about Brother Wajid has put down his comment saying that how this system can be spread across the world or in the Muslim world. Presently, we cannot. Presently, we are the only ones who are talking about the system of Deen in that finest details. And it will take time, and it could be in our lifetime, it may not be in lifetime, but that is not our issue. That is the issue of Allah and His human beings and His world. You and me and all of us have certain responsibility, and at least we are making an effort to come to grips with the psychological side of this system of Deen. But we should always be, this is the way we should motivate ourselves. One, of course, motivation is to come on this path, which Wajid Bhai always comes. And second is to leave it to Allah as well. There are certain things all of us can do, something we simply cannot do. Ji Zan Bhai, sorry for that.
No, that's okay, sir. Thank you. I just want to have a comment that riba-free society is not possible until we establish a financial system which is based on kulil of. And the second thing is, I had a discussion about 6 years ago with a representative of Tolu Islam Basm. Yeah, he was actually not agreeing with the explanation of Kulil of, because he was earning a very handsome salary, and he actually said that how is it possible that the thing which I have earned after a hard work, I give it to the system. So I said, right now there is no system, but you must agree that once there is a system, then you have to first follow kulil of, and then we can have a riba-free society or riba-free financial system. Thank you.
Now that is absolutely right, because you are spot on that these things look very utopian. These things look very impossible. But these are not impossible when we look at Allah and His book and look in that direction that He has created this system, this world with human beings who have certain choices. And Quran points to that and says that you start following this path with light in your hand of the Quran, then people will join in. And all those who will agree with this, they will stay on this path. Those who do not agree with it and who think that this is madness to follow this system, this path, they will leave. And you should never be discouraged by that, because it's not a question of numbers, it is a question of firm conviction, and that is what Iman is. So that is how we keep progressing on this path. And I agree with you, it starts from Kulul Af, by understanding Kulul Af. And that comes far later. People start thinking that they will have to give up tomorrow. No, it is not the thing of tomorrow. When the system will be established, as and when system is established of the willing, then the system will explain to them rationally, will appeal to them rationally. Those who are running the system, they will present their own self transparently before them and tell them that, look, this is what I had, now I don't have this because this system is going to take care of me. And I'm fully satisfied with the system. And they will explain to them, this is how your needs will be met. This is how your fears will be removed. This is how uncertainty will disappear. This is how your own future and the future of your children will be taken care of. This is how you will not only benefit in this life by explaining to them that what self is, how a better self looks like, how it feels, how it develops. Because once we have inner assurance, and that is where the answer lies, isn't it? You know, when you and me are looking at this book and looking at the world around us and looking at Allah through his signs, we say, if Allah is there as the sun shines, and if this is his book, and the things he has said in the Quran are mind blowing, to tell you, ordinary human beings don't think like that. This presentation which I put together, and I always will suggest to everyone, please go through it 2-3 times. Each and every line over there is very important. A creation of Allah. I call myself creation of Allah. All of us are a creation of Allah. He has given me this free mind. This free mind, by understanding the whole system at this point in time, by going through what Allama Pervez has written, what he has spoken about it, and through my own experience, I put it together and I said, what is the basic human problem? Can this human mind, which is brought up under man-made system, conceive a riba-free system or not? And I came to this conclusion that it simply cannot conceive a riba-free system without the help of the Quran, and without the context of the system of Deen, and without the love and affection for yatim and miskeen, without the love and affection for all those human beings. In fact, every human being in the world who has landed up in this world unwillingly, because none of them was asked to come here. And then you look at it and say, let us solve it. Let us go through it and see why human beings are not uncomfortable with a system in which riba is everywhere. And it is because we do not understand the significance of our body and ourself. Because if my body has a certain abilities to live this life effectively, and it failed to live that life effectively as guided by the Quran, then essentially I have done injustice to myself. Isn't it? This is the way we now started viewing it. You remember where we were and where we are now.
Yes, sir.
We couldn't have discussed these things, and you wouldn't have said that Kulul Af holds the key to this.
Yes, sir. The second point is that I also said that let's go to the verse, Walakad Karamna Bani Adama. Can you create a society which is based on financial equality and then implement Walakad Karamna Bani Adama? You cannot do it.
No.
But some of the members are not actually have gone through in that depth to understand the Quranic verse. That's true.
So there is a lot more that in part 2, hopefully we will expand it further. If there is a need, I'll go to part 3 as well. Because this was at the back of my mind for a long time, that this riba thing has to be resolved. And I'm glad I have understood it. It took me a long time to understand, because there is a very finer psychological side. We want to get best out of our life in the light of the Quran. And we also have certain possessions with us. Now, what we do is, with those possessions, even under the man-made system, we say that there is a need to strengthen this system, like let's say through Islam. Can I get rid of some of those possessions which provide me certain security for a higher value of supporting through Islam? It's not helping others. While we are helping others, it is easier to help human beings, because human beings present certain pain and certain what you call difficulties, and we listen to them. When it comes to something abstract like a system, like an organization through Islam or Allah, when Allah says, Allah has purchased my life or body as well as nafs as well as my possessions, so Allah is not there. What is he asking me to do? He's asking me to do that. I've given you a free mind, make use of it, learn the Quran first yourself, and then share it with others. And don't charge them for that. And what did we do? We translated these books. Somebody said it must be difficult. I said, no. The translation of these books paid for themselves. The player which I got, or we got as a team, what value will you put on that?
Immense.
Immense value.
Yeah.
The discussion or the exchange of views which we are taking place over here, the player which I'm getting, and I'm sure all of you are getting, what value will you put on that? Can we go to Tesco or a local store and buy it, that I want to buy some player of being on this Zoom platform? You know, these are the things which we have to come together and put our mind in that direction and say, am I just a human being who is physical being, gets up in the morning, eats some breakfast, does some work, earns some money, goes to sleep? Is that the purpose of life? How it is difficult from an animal? And have we managed to pass it on to our children as well? Do we see children as the creation of Allah, who have a mind like us and a brain like us? Are we helping them to stand up on their own feet and earn a hereafter as well? So the whole thing is that we have to expand our vision. And this is a golden opportunity, that we can expand our vision to that extent where we can grasp, despite having difficulties. All of us have tremendous difficulties. 2-3 days I have been quite sick, and at the night I had to get up and go and do some gargles and take some antibiotics and take paracetamol. And I was quite run down. Then I said, okay, this is part of the struggle. And these are the players of, becoming sick as well. But why? Then I thought that why I felt sick, because my immunity was low. I did something because of immunity went down. This is again a battle between haq and batil. But then I thought of that there is a lecture coming up. There is a question answer session on Sunday. And I was very excited about this presentation. It took me a long time to put it down, put it together. So I will say that we should all go through it few times. And I will go through it again my time. I listened to it, part of it again. I'm going to go through it again. The reason is that there is a lot which human mind thinks at a point in time, then puts it together, then forgets. We all forget very quickly. That is why when we suffer, Quran also says that when you suffer, you call Allah and then you forget. Quran is saying don't forget. And if we don't want to forget, we have to make an effort not to forget. I'll go to Brother Bukhari. Thanks for asking, Brother Zan.
No, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bukhari, you wanted to ask something.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really insightful. And being the student of business management, we have been coming across Islamic banking. And there we have been continuously thinking about Islamic banking and lots of terminologies, musharika, madariba, mubarakha, and where there were many substitutes being presented for riba. So, but when you shared the presentation, and luckily in the office, I got a small booklet of Pervez Sahab that names as Tahqiq Riba, and I was lucky enough to read it out completely before this lecture. So thank you so much. And one thing that is now clear, and it was in my mind that I'll ask this question: that how this system will work. What is the starting point? But then you said that we are all the somehow from head to toe in the system, and somehow the beneficiaries as well and affectees as well. So now I understand that the conventional banking and Islamic banking, and now there is another banking which is called another system which Quran introduces, Quranics. Um, uh, uh, and what I have so far read about Islamic is it has nothing to do with Quranic, and Quran talks about, and it satiates us, it satisfies us. Thank you so much. It was a really thought-provoking lecture, and I really enjoyed it. The best lesson so far. Thank you, sir.
Now, I'm very pleased that you benefited, and if there are any points, please feel free to give me the feedback.
No,
Because,
sir. Yeah.
yes, feel free to feedback. If there is any query, phone me and we can discuss it as well. Because a number of questions will arise in our mind that, okay, there is no system of Deen, but under the system of Deen, how the banking will work,
Yeah.
how the money flow will work, how will that system interact with the man-made system. Then there are issues of inflation. Okay, there will be no, the Islamic Deen system, there will be a control on inflation, because in my view, some people say it should be a barter system, but my view is that this money or currency system is very good in terms of flexibility. But obviously there are safeguards which have to be put in place. But the basic of that system, fundamental, is that all those who are running the system, they are convertees called mu'mineen.
A few days ago, some of my colleagues from my university posted on the Facebook, like we
Are
have
you
initiated.
on your video? You can switch on the video if you want.
Sorry, I'm walking down the street, so
Okay,
that's
okay,
why. Sorry.
that is fine then.
Okay, so that's why he posted that today we held a workshop in the name of Islamic banking. So I was very keen knowing the content of the workshop, and when it came before me and I gone through it, it was all the exploitation, like mudarika. That means if you give me £1, so and I set a time that I'll return you and if I'm unable, that you will charge me £2. And now the same thing goes that okay, I will buy you this property and you can keep this property, work on it, and also I'm I will be sharing your profit. I won't be working. That would be a sleeping partner relationship, but I would be sharing the profit. But Quran says, "Kul laysa lil insana illa ma sa."
Sorry, you lost. I think Amjad bhai, you wanted to ask something while Brother Bukhari will come back.
I think my question was on slightly different topic, more around what's going on in Gaza, and things are getting to an extreme level where it's getting beyond one's imagination. How do you see this as a student of, Quran? We've, is I know we had this discussion many times over, but you think this situation will sort of, come down a little bit, but it's just getting worse and worse. And I think this is something else that's can play on your mind? Can you shed any light?
Yes, that's a very good question, though it is not related to our topic over here. Another one thing I will just came to my mind, which is related to emotions and riba. Those people who are going to establish the system of Deen should be able to come over or overcome their emotions of jealousy, envy, and all that, because Islamic system or the system of Deen is for the welfare of human beings, in which human self takes priority. That anything which is related to human self and its worries and its inner grief, that has to be taken care of, and physical alleviation, that is the difficulties through physical alleviation or problems, is part of it. For example, each family, each human being needs some place which is called shelter, and that shelter must have basic amenities of life. And one is that. Second is that all those human beings who are living within the confines of that land should understand and be contented that life will not end with death. It is a journey, it will go on. This is for the transitional phase. So human beings become very satisfied and contented when they understand the situation in which they are and they can justify it to themselves. And the way system is organized, in which material things are of a lower priority as compared to the priority of self-development. Because all these negative emotions and problems arise through our thought process, our basic configuration as human beings, where we find ourselves uncertain, we become doubtful, we become suspicious, we become jealous, we become envious, and all these, we become revengeful as well. So all these things are for mu'mineen to understand and then overcome those and understand the implications of each one of us. So on this platform, this is important for us to work in our own time to overcome these inner frailties, should I say, psychological dissonances. And our own family system is the best where we can practice it, and within our circle wherever we are. Now, going back to Gaza and Palestine and the problems across the world, wherever human beings are being exploited or suffering because of man-made system. The Quran invites us to not to be affected by this negatively. It asks us to be affected by it positively. Positive like this, that we know these problems are created by the man-made system, and wherever there is a man-made system, it will always have these problems, whether individual level or collective level. And Quran says that you should keep in mind that whatever human beings do wrong, there are consequences for that, and those consequences take time to materialize collectively. So we can see that in today's world, there is a collective decline of the West taking place. And there is some rise, economic rise in China, Russia, and they call it global South. But again, as the students of the Quran, we know that the so-called rise is as bad as the so-called decline is. So what should we do? Our job is fairly simple and straightforward. We should stick to the path we are following, strengthen Tolu Islam, strengthen our own self, strengthen our unity and bond, and we remain firmly on this path of understanding the Quran as a system of Deen. That is one basic. Whatever job we are doing, we should do it to the best of our ability, because we get paid for that. And the next is we should broaden our horizon by keeping in touch with what is happening in the world. There is a legacy media, there is a social media, there are a lot of YouTube videos, and the people are trying to make money out of selling these news, whether false or not so false. But this is part of the learning process. But at the back of it is the law of requital. The law of requital says that there will be a lot of trouble in the world if one set of forces does not replace another set of forces. And that is important for us to understand, that there is one set of countries or nations who are standing up against another set of nations and countering them. But this is all on the economic basis, because all these forces think that human beings are just physical bodies who just need food and clothing and all these amenities of life. And while we are observing that and they are not listening to us, of course they should not listen, because even if they listen, the path to Deen is as long as we have already indicated through these slides. It is spread over many years of work. That too, if people come to this path. So even if, firstly, they don't know. Even if they know about it, many of them will not be convinced. And then there will be a small minority who will come and they will also give up. Out of that small minority, there will be a very tiny, tiny minority who will stay on this platform and others will quit. Because it's not an easy path. It is a path which goes against your own natural path of desires and emotions. We'll go for immediate benefits of life. Hereafter is never in our mind even when we are reading the Quran or studying it. So the Gaza is a very difficult challenge. We just watch it. Firstly, we should avoid it. If we can, don't look at those pictures where children are being blown up. There is no point. You can't do nothing. You and me simply cannot do anything. They just will cause more pain to you. But be aware of it. At the same time, we should be absolutely aware of it in the light of the Quran, that the solution lies in the Quran. If there was a solution other than the Quran, I can assure you I will be the first one to follow that solution. But I've gone through all these solutions in my life. There is nothing in these human beings which are non-Quranic which can think of the welfare of other human beings. They are in it for their own self-interest. That is why all these Muslims who have just gone through Ramadan and Mubarak and all those, that is why I always say that please don't say Eid Mubarak and these things. These are distractions. These will take you away from the correct path of life. And correct path of life first germinates in our own head. If my head is contaminated, how am I going to work for Allah? Because Allah works through my head, through my mind. Physical body comes far later. That is why He says, I am with you wherever you are, which means I should be aware of His presence. So Gaza, you and me can do nothing. Our job is to follow this path, strengthen Tolu Islam, and keep following it. Keep following it, at least till the time I am alive. The day I am dead, then somebody else should take over and keep doing it and keep understanding it. And so far we have seen that when we take some part of the Quran, it keeps expanding. I thought that I will cover this riba free system in one lecture. Now I have to go to the second one. I might have to go to the third one. And then you remember we left, I think 26 verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. We have to go back to it. This Allah's book keeps expanding because it is Allah's book. And it is Allah has given us this brain which has the ability to keep expanding in direct proportion to the book of Allah. So let us enjoy our trip through the book of Allah and have some tears for our brothers and sisters in Gaza and of course elsewhere as well. And lament on the state of Muslim world who do nothing for that, because they have nothing to do with the Quran. That is a fact. And these people in the Muslim world, as long as they are lost in that sectarian Islam, they simply cannot get new life, which the Quran is inviting them to get. They don't know even about this life, how they're going to get it. They are totally immersed in material benefits, in biological aspects of life. And in order to get new life, we have to rise from the biological life. All of us are biological human beings. I don't know how you feel it. Have we grown out of our biological families or not? And that's an important question for all of us. That is my biological family, which is not following the Quran, is that more important, or this is more important while we are keeping functional relationship with them? So it is up to us that how much psychologically we are committed to Allah, who has given us this psyche or this brain free, and its use is also free. So this is the way we have to deal with it. It's a very difficult situation, because when we become aware of the Quran, then we are far more aware and sensitive about the human problems as well. And you remember, Quran talks about yatim and miskin from beginning to the end. And Allah has put us into a very challenging situation by giving us the Quran and making us understand it. And now we can feel that tremor and that responsibility through every cell of ours, every cell of our body. And we know, and then we say that it is Allah is there to help us. We are not alone. We're doing His job. He is the employer. So let Him look after us. So our job is to stick to this. That's it. Otherwise, if we get involved in this Gaza, you must have seen on YouTube, they are saying people are suffering in Gaza, give money. Don't give them a penny, because all of these are making money on the back of their suffering. These people are not sincere people. They don't understand the Quran. They have a solution. They have Quran. Pervez things are available everywhere. Why don't they think? So they will keep suffering, and Muslims will keep quiet because they are not Muslims. And the Western people will do what Shaitan is meant to do. Iblis is meant to do that. It's given in the Quran. And the counter to that is Tolu Islam. And Tolu Islam is at a very, very nascent stage, at a very initial stage. And if our hearts don't get united, Amjad Bhai, then I can assure you there is no possibility of getting help from Allah. Zero possibility.
I think, yeah.
So let us leave our platform today with a happy note.
Definitely.
Thank you, Amjad bhai.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Ijaz bhai,
hopefully
before-
I have put together my second part presentation. There is a lot in that again. And what I'll do is I'll let you know about the program for next Sunday.
Thank you, Ijaz bhai. This is our youngest member, Rahim Kareem's brother. Ji. So, oh, Uncle Ijaz hai. Assalamu alaikum. Aur behan bhai bhi hain.
Okay, take care, please.
Hello, Rahim.
Take care.
Ji.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Time to